There you go. Okay, hello ladies and gentlemen, Forrest over here, and welcome back to another reading live stream. Tonight, I will be reading part the Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief. This will be part 3 of my book reading series of this book. There are no pre-made parts to this book, I just did it on myself. This part will contain chapters 10 through 14. So without further ado, let me find the first page for this one. Right here. So without further ado, let's begin. Excuse me. Chapter 10. I ruin a perfectly good bus. It didn't take me long to pack. I decided to leave the Minotaur horn in my cabin, which left me only an extra change of clothes and a toothbrush to stuff in a backpack Grover had found for me. The camp store loaned me $100 in mortal money and 20 golden drachmas. These coins were as big as the Girl Scout cookies and had images of various Greek gods stamped on one side and the Empire State Building on the other. The ancient mortal drachmas had been silver, Chiron told us, but Olympians never used less than pure gold. Chiron said the coins might come in handy for non-mortal transactions, whatever that means. He gave Annabeth and me a canteen of nectar and a Ziploc bag full of Ambrosia squares to be used only in emergencies if we were seriously hurt. It was God food, Chiron reminded us. It would cure us of almost any injury, but it was lethal to mortals. Too much of it would make a half-blood very, very feverish. An overdose would burn us up, literally. Annabeth was bringing her magic Yankees cap, which she told me had been a 12th birthday present from her mom. She carried a book on famous classical architecture, written in ancient Greek, to read when she got bored, and a long bronze knife hidden in her shirt sleeve. I was sure the knife would get us busted the first time we went through a metal detector. Grover wore his fake feet and his pants to pass as human. He wore a green Rasta style cap because it raised his curly hair flattened. Because when it rained, his curly hair flattened, and you could just see the tips of his horns. He brought orange backpack. His bright orange backpack was full of scrap metal and apples to snack on. In his pocket was a set of reed pipes his daddy goat had carved for him, even though he only knew 2 songs. Mozart's Piano Concerto No. 12 and Hilary Duff's So Yesterday, both of which sounded pretty bad on reed pipes. We waved goodbye to the other campers, took one last look at the strawberry fields, the ocean, and the big house, then hiked up Half-Blood Hill to the tall pine tree that used to be Talia, daughter of Zeus. Chiron was waiting for us in his wheelchair. Next to him stood the surfer dude I'd seen when I was recovering in the sick room. According to Grover, the guy was the camp's head of security. He supposedly had eyes all over his body, so he could never be surprised. Today, though, he was wearing a chauffeur's uniform, so I could only see extra peepers on his hands, face, and neck. This is Argus, Chiron told me. He will drive you into the city and, well, keep an eye on things. I heard footsteps behind us. Luke came running up the hill, carrying a pair of basketball shoes. "Hey!" he panted. "Glad I caught you." Annabeth blushed the way she always did when Luke was around. "Just wanted to say good luck," Luke told me. And I thought, maybe you could use these. He handed me the sneakers, which looked pretty normal. They even smelled kind of normal. Luke said, "Maya!" White bird's wings sprouted out of his heels, startling me so much I dropped them. The shoes flapped around on the ground until the wings floated up and disappeared. "Awesome!" Grover said. Luke smiled. Those served me well when I was on my quest. Gift from Dad. Of course, I don't use them much these days. His expression turned sad. I didn't know what to say. It was cool enough that Luke had come to say goodbye. I'd been afraid he might resent me for getting so much attention the last few days. But here he was giving me a magic gift. It made me blush almost as much as Annabeth. Hey, man, I said. Thanks. Listen, Percy. Luke looked uncomfortable. A lot of hopes are riding on you. So just kill some monsters for me, okay? We shook hands. Luke patted Grover's head between his horns, then gave a goodbye hug to Annabeth. It looked like she might pass out. After Luke was gone, I told her, "You're hyperventilating." Am not. You let him capture the flag instead of you, didn't you? Oh, why do I want to go anywhere with you, Percy? She stalked down the other side of the hill, where a white SUV awaited on the shoulder of the road. Argus followed, jingling his car keys. I picked up the flying shoes and had a sudden bad feeling. I looked at Sheeran. I won't be able to use these, will I? He shook his head. No, Luke means well, Percy. But tailing to the air, that would not be wise for you. I nodded, disappointed, but then I got an idea. Hey, Grover, you want a magic item? His eyes lit up. Me? Pretty soon we laced the sneakers over his feet and the world's first flying goat boy was ready for launch. Maya! He shouted. He got off the ground okay, but then fell over sideways, so his backpack dragged through the grass. The winged shoes kept bucking up and down like tiny broncos. Practice, Tyrion called after him. You just need practice. Ah! Grover went flying sideways down the hill like a possessed lawnmower, heading toward the van. Before I could follow, Tyrion caught my arm. I should have trained you better, Percy, he said. If only I had more time. Hercules, Jason, they all got more training. That's okay. I just wish I stopped myself because I was about to sound like a brat. I was wishing my dad had given me a cool magic item to help on the quest. Something as cool as Luke's flying shoes, or Annabeth's invisible cap. What am I thinking? Tyrion cried. I can't let you get away without this. He pulled a pen from his coat pocket and handed it to me. It was an ordinary disposable ballpoint black ink removable cap. Probably cost 30 cents. Gee, I said. Thanks. Percy, that's a gift from your father. I've kept it for years, not knowing you were who I was waiting for. But the prophecy is clear to me now. You are the one. I remembered the field trip to the Metropolitan Museum of Art when I'd vaporized Mrs. Dodds. Jiren had thrown me a pin that turned into a sword. Could this be? I took off the cap and the pin grew longer and the heavier my hand. In half a second I held a shimmering bronze sword with a double-edged blade, a leather-wrapped grip, and a flat hilt riveted with gold studs. It was the first weapon that automatically felt balanced in my hand. The sword has a long and tragic history that we need not go into, Chiron told me. Its name is Eklusmos. Riptide, I translated, surprised the ancient breed came so easily. Use it only for emergencies, Chiron said, and only against monsters. No hero should harm mortals unless absolutely necessary, of course, but this sword wouldn't harm them in any case. I looked at the wickedly sharp blade. What do you mean it wouldn't harm mortals? How could it not? The sword is celestial bronze, forged by the Cyclops, tempered in the heart of Mount Etna, cooled in the river Lethe. It's deadly to monsters to any creature from the underworld, provided they don't kill you first. But the blade will pass through mortals like an illusion. They simply are not important enough for the blade to kill. And I should warn you, as a demigod, you can be killed by either celestial or normal weapons. You are twice as vulnerable. Good to know. Now recap the pen. I touched the pen cap to the sword tip and instantly Riptide shrank to a ballpoint pen again. I tucked it in my pocket, a little nervous, because I was famous for losing pens at school. You can't, Chiron said. Can't what? Lose the pen, he said. It is enchanted. It will always reappear in your pocket. Try it. I was weary, but I threw the pen as far as I could down the hill and watched it disappear in the grass. It may take a few moments, Chiron told me. Now check your pocket. Sure enough, the pen was there. Okay, that is extremely cool, I admitted. But what if a mortal sees me pulling out a sword? Chiron smiled. Mist is a powerful thing, Percy. Mist? Yes. Read the Iliad. It's full of references to the stuff. Whenever divine or monstrous elements mix with the mortal world, they generate mist, which obscures the vision of humans. You will see things just as they are, being a half-blood, but humans will interpret things quite differently. Remarkable, really, the lengths to which humans will go to fit things into their version of reality. I put Riptide back in my pocket. For the first time, the quest felt real. I was actually leaving Half-Blood Hill. I was heading west with no adult supervision, no backup plan, not even a cell phone. Chance that cell phones were traceable by monsters. If we used one, it would be worse than setting up a flare. I had no weapon stronger than a sword to fight off monsters and reach the land of the dead. Chiron, I said, when you say the gods are immortal, I mean, there was a time before them, right? 4 ages before them, actually. The time of the Titans was the Fourth Age, sometimes called the Golden Age, which is definitely a misnomer. This, the time of Western civilization and the rule of Zeus, is the Fifth Age. So what was it like before the gods? Tyrion pursed his lips. Even I am not old enough to remember that, child, but I know it was a time of darkness and strategy for mortals. Kronos, the lord of the Titans, called his reign the Golden Age because men lived innocent and free of all knowledge. But that was mere propaganda. The Titan King cared nothing for your kind, except in a, except as appetizers or a source of cheap entertainment. It was only in the early reign of Lord Zeus, when Prometheus, the good Titan, brought fire to mankind, that young species began to progress, and even the Prometheus was branded a radical thinker. Zeus punished him severely, as you may recall. Of course, eventually the gods warned to humans, warmed to humans, and Western civilization was born. But the gods can't die now, right? I mean, as long as Western civilization is alive, they're alive. So, even if I failed, nothing could happen so bad it would mess up everything, right? Sheeran gave me a melancholy smile. No one knows how long the age of the West will last, Percy. The gods are immortal, yes, but then so are the Titans. They still exist, locked away in their various prisons, forced to endure endless pain and punishment, reduced in power, but still very much alive. May the fates forbid that the gods should ever suffer such a doom, or that we should ever return to the darkness and chaos of the past. All we can do, John, is follow our destiny. Our destiny. Assuming we know what that is. Relax, Chiron told me. Keep a clear head. And remember, you may be about to prevent the biggest war in human history. Relax, I said. I'm very relaxed. When I got to the bottom of the hill, I looked back under the pine tree that used to be Talia, daughter of Zeus. Chiron was now standing in full horseman form, holding his bow high in salute. Just your typical summer camp send-off by your typical centaur. Artemis drove out of the countryside and into western Long Island. It felt weird to be on a highway again. Annabeth and Grover sitting next to me as if we were normal carpoolers. After 2 weeks at Half Blood Hill, the real world seemed like a fantasy. I found myself staring at every McDonald's, every kid in the back of his parents' car, every billboard and shopping mall. So far so good, I told Annabeth. 10 miles without a single monster. She gave me an irritated look. Look, it's bad luck to talk that way, seaweed brain. Remind me, why do you hate me so much? I don't hate you. Could have fooled me. She folded her cap of invisibility. Look, we're just not supposed to get along, okay? Our parents are rivals. Why? She sighed. How many reasons do you want? One time my mom caught Poseidon with his girlfriend in Athena's temple, which is hugely disrespectful. Another time, Athena and Poseidon competed to be the patron god for the city of Athens. Your dad created some stupid saltwater spring for his gift. My mom created the olive tree. The people saw that her gift was better, so they named the city after her. They must really like olives. Oh, forget it. Now, if she'd invented pizza, that I could understand. I said, forget it! In the front seat, Argus smiled. He didn't say anything, but one blue eye in the back of his neck winked at me. Traffic slowed us down in Queens. By the time we got into Manhattan, it was sunset and starting to rain. Argus dropped us at the Greyhound station on the Upper East Side, not far from my mom and Dave's apartment. Taped to a mailbox was a Sally flyer with my picture on it. Have you seen this boy? I ripped it down before Annabeth and Grover could notice. Argus unloaded our bags, made sure we got our bus tickets, then drove away, the eye on the back of his hand, opening to watch us as he pulled out of the parking lot. I thought about how close I was to my old apartment. On a normal day, my mom wouldn't be home from the candy store by now. Smelly Game was probably up there right now, playing poker, not even missing her. Grover shouldered his backpack. He gazed down the street in the direction I was looking. You want to know why she married him, Percy? I stared at him. Were you reading my mind or something? Just your emotions, he shrugged. Guess I forgot to tell you, sailors can do that. You were thinking about your mom and your stepdad, right? I nodded, wondering what else Grover might have forgotten to tell me. Your mom married Gabe for you, Grover told me. You call him smelly, but you've got no idea. The guy has this aura. Yeah, I can smell it from here. I can smell traces of him on you, and you haven't even been near him for a week. Thanks, I said. Where's the nearest shower? You should be grateful, Percy. Your stepfather smells so repulsively human you could mask the presence of any demigod. As soon as I took a whiff inside his Camaro, I knew. Gabe had been covering your scent for years. If you hadn't lived with him every summer, you probably would have been found by monsters a long time ago. Your mom stayed with him to protect you. She was a smart lady. She must have loved you a lot to put up with that guy, if that makes you feel any better. It didn't, but I forced myself not to show it. I'll see her again, I thought. She isn't gone. I wonder if Grover could still read my emotions, mixed up as they were. I was glad he and Annabeth were with me, but I felt guilty that I hadn't been straight with them. I hadn't told them the real reason I had said yes to this crazy quest. The truth was, I didn't care about retrieving Zeus's lightning bolt, or saving the world, or even helping my father get out of trouble. The more I thought about it, I resented Poseidon for never visiting me, never helping my mom, never even sending a lousy child support check. He'd only claimed me because he needed a job done. All I cared about was my mom. Hades had taken her unfairly, and Hades was going to give her back. You will be betrayed by one who calls you a friend, the oracle said. The oracle whispered in my mind. You will fail to save what really matters in the end. Shut up, I told it. The rain kept coming down. We got restless waiting for the bus and decided to play some hacky sack with one of Grover's apples. Annabeth was unbelievable. She could bounce the apple off her knee, her elbow, her shoulder, whatever. I wasn't too bad myself. The game was the game ended. The game ended when I tossed the apple toward Grover and it got too close to his mouth. In one mangled goat bite, our hacky sack disappeared, core, stem, and all. Grover blushed. He tried to apologize, but Annabeth and I were too busy cracking up. Finally, the bus came, and we stood in line to board. Grover started looking around, sniffing the air, like he smelled his favorite school cafeteria delicacy, enchiladas. What is it? I asked. I don't know, he said tensely. Maybe it's nothing. But I could tell it wasn't nothing. I started looking over my shoulder, too. I was relieved when we finally got on board and found seats together in the back of the bus. We stowed our backpacks. Annabeth kept slapping her Yankee cap nervously against her thigh. As the last passengers got on, Annabeth clamped her hand on my knee. Percy. An old lady had just boarded the bus. She wore a crumpled velvet dress, lace gloves, and a shapeless orange knit hat that shadowed her face, and she carried a big paisley purse. When she tilted her head up, her black eyes glinted and my heart skipped a beat. It was Mrs. Dodds, older, more withered, but definitely the same evil face. I scrunched down in my seat. Behind her came two more old ladies, one in a green hat, one in a purple hat. Otherwise, they looked exactly like Mrs. Dodds. Same gnarled hands, paisley handbags, wrinkled velvet dresses, triplet demon grandmothers. They sat in the front row, right behind the driver. The two on the aisle crossed their legs over the walkway, making an X. It was casual enough, but it seemed to send a clear message. Nobody leaves. The bus pulled out of the station and we headed through the slick streets of Manhattan. She didn't stay dead for long, I said, trying to keep my voice from quivering. I said you said they could be disbound for a lifetime. I said if you're lucky, Annabeth said. You're obviously not. Oh, three of them, Grover whimpered. Diamortales. It's okay, Annabeth said, obviously thinking hard. The Furies, the three worst monsters from the underworld. No problem, no problem. We'll just slip out the windows. They don't open, Grover moaned. The back exit? She suggested. There wasn't one. Even if there had been, it wouldn't have helped. By that time we were on Ninth Avenue heading for the Lincoln Tunnel. They won't attack us with witnesses around, I said. Will they? Mortals don't have good eyes, Annabeth reminded me. Their brains can only process what they see through the mist. They'll see three old ladies killing us, won't they? She thought about it. Hard to say, but we can't count on mortals for help. Maybe an emergency exit in the roof? We hit the London Tunnel, and the bus went dark, except for the running lights down the aisle. It was eerily quiet without the sound of the rain. Mrs. Dodds got up. In a flat voice, as if she rehearsed it, she announced to the whole bus, I need to use the restroom. So do I, said the second sister. So do I, said the third sister. They all started coming down the aisle. I've got it, Annabeth said. Percy, take my hat. What? You're the one they want. Turn invisible and go up the aisle. Let them pass you. Maybe you'll get to the front and get away. But you guys, there's an outside chance they might not notice us, Annabeth said. You're a son of one of the big three. Your smell might be overpowering. I just can't leave you. Don't worry about us, Grover said. Go! My hands trembled. I felt like a coward, but I took the Yankees cap and put it on. When I looked down, my body wasn't there anymore. I started creeping up the aisle. I managed to get up 10 rows, then ducked into an empty seat as just as Furies walked past. Mrs. Dodd stopped, sniffing, and looked straight at me. My heart was pounding. Apparently she didn't see anything. She and her sister kept going. I was free. I made it sure to the forest of the bus, the front of the bus. We were almost through Lincoln Tunnel now. I was about to press the emergency stop button when I heard hideous wailing from the back row. The old ladies were not old ladies anymore. Their faces were still the same, and quite those couldn't get any uglier. But their bodies had shriveled into leathery brown bag bodies, with wrists ridden with bats' wings and hands and feet like gargoyle claws. Their handbags had turned into fiery whips. The Furies surrounded Grover and Annabeth, lashing their whips, hissing, "Where is it? Where?" The other people on the long bus were screaming, cowering in their front seats. They saw something, all right. "He's not here," Annabeth yelled. "He's gone." The Furies raised their whips. Annabeth drew her bronze knife. Grover grabbed a tin can from his snack bag and prepared to throw it. What I did next was so impulsive and dangerous. I should have been named ADHD Poster Child of the Year. The bus driver was distracted, trying to see what was going on in his rearview mirror. Small and still invisible, I grabbed the wheel from him and jerked it to the left. Everybody howled as they were thrown into the right, and I heard what I hoped was the sound of three Furies smashing against the windows. "Hey!" the driver yelled. "Hey! Whoa!" We wrestled for the wheel. The bus slammed against the side of the tunnel, grinding metal, grinding metal, throwing spikes a mile behind us. We careened out of the Lincoln Tunnel and had back into the rainstorm. People or monsters tossed around the bus like clay pots away for a bowling pins. Somehow the driver found an exit. We shot off the highway, through a half dozen traffic lights, and made up being down one of New Jersey's chain lobsters. St. Rural roads where you can't befriend children as so much as such as right across the river from New York. There were woods to the left, but to the to our left, the Helen River to our right, and the driver seems to be right vesting toward the stores. Another great idea. I'll show this using an emergency emergency you know. Yep. Let's see here. The bus wheel spun a full circle on the wet asphalt and crashed into the trees. The attempted lights came out. The door flew open. The hmm, let's see here. The bus wheel spun a full circle on the wet asphalt and crashed into the trees. The emergency lights came on. The door flew open. The bus driver was the first one out. The passengers yelled as they stampeded after him. I approved to the driver's seat and let them pass. The Furies regained their balance. They lashed driver. They lashed. They lashed their whips at Annabeth while waved her knife and yelled in ancient Greek, telling them to back off. Grover threw in tin guns. I'm looking at the opposite doorway. I was free to go, but I couldn't leave my friends. I took off the invisible cap. Chapter 13. I looked at my open doorway. I was free to go, but I could never leave my friends. I took that off the universal cap. I looked at the doorway. Let's see. Yeah, I looked at the open doorway. I was free to go, but I couldn't leave my friends. I took off the invisible cap. Hey! The Furies turned, barring their yellow fangs at me, and the evil suddenly seemed like an excellent idea. Mrs. Dodds walked up the aisle, just as she used to in class, about to deliver the F-math test. Every time she flickered her whip, and flames danced along the bad behavior. Hmm. Her two ugly sisters hopped onto that on top of the seats on either side of her and crawled around me like a me. Hmm. Great, I just lost my place a little bit here. Right here, though, I think that's where we're at. Perseus Perseus Jackson, Mrs. Donna said. Used accent that was definitely from somewhere in Happy Tuesday. Uh, yeah. Mm. Mm. Alright. Perseus Jackson, Mrs. I was taking a bit of sweet time to figure out where I was at, but I think I found it. Perseus Jackson, Mrs. Dodd said, and said I was definitely from somewhere farther south than Georgia. You have defended the gods. You shall die. I let you bet as a math teacher, I told her. She growled. Annabeth and Gumball are moving up from the Fortez's case in the close and alright. Yeah, I have no idea what the hell just. These things have me going so many different pages ahead of me. I don't know what the heck. But anyway, going back to what I was saying, to what I was reading. Yeah, if I missed any part of this book, any part of this, let me know, and I'll redo this. I'll probably watch it myself to make sure I didn't miss anything. But anyway, I'm gonna repeat that phrase that I remember reading last, so that way, we're on the same page. Perseus Jackson, Mrs. Dodd said, in an accent that was definitely from somewhere farther from south of Georgia. You have offended the gods. You shall die. I liked you better as a math teacher, I told her. She growled. Annabeth and Grover moved up behind the Furies cautiously, looking for an opening. I took the ballpoint pen out of my pocket and unclapped it. Riptide elongated into a shimmering double-edged sword. The Furies hesitated. Mrs. Dodds had found Riptide's blade before. She obviously didn't like seeing it again. Submit now, she hissed, and you will not suffer eternal torment. Nice try, I told her. Percy, look out! Annabeth cried. Mrs. Dodds lashed her whip around my sword, and while the Furies on the inside lunged at me, my hand felt like it was wrapped in molten lead, but I managed not to drop Riptide. I stuck the Fury on the left with its hilt, sending her toppling backward into a seat. I turned and sliced the Fury on the right. As soon as the blade connected with her neck, she screamed and exploded into dust. Annabeth got Mrs. Dodds in a wrestler's hold and yanked her backward while Grover ripped her whip out of her hands. Ow! He yelled. Ow! Hot! Hot! The fury-eyed hilt slammed came at me again, talons ready. But I swung Riptide said she broke open like a pinata. When Mrs. Dodds was trying to get Annabeth off her back, she kicked, clawed, hissed, and bit, but Annabeth held on, while Grover got Mrs. Dodds' legs tied up in her own whip. Finally, they both showed her backward into the aisle. Mrs. Dodds tried to get up, but she didn't have room to flap her bar wings, so she kept falling down. Zeus will destroy you, she promised. Hades will have your soul. Dracos mias vestimni. I wasn't I wasn't sure where the Latin came from. I think it meant eat my pants. Thunder shook the boats. The head roared. The head woke me up on the back of my neck. Get out! Annabeth yelled at me. Now! I didn't need any encouragement. We reached outside and found the other passengers wandering around in a dazed argument with the driver, or something around in circles yelling, we're going to die! A Hawaiian shirted tourist with a caption snapped on my photos before I could recap my sword. Okay, Grover said. What? Wait, hold on. Pressed the wrong button. Said the wrong thing there. Our bags, Grover realized. We left our... Boom! The windows of the bus exploded as the passengers ran for cover. Lightning shredded a huge crater in the roof, and an energy wall from inside told me Mrs. Dodds was not yet dead. Run! Annabeth said. She's calling for reinforcements. We have to get out of here. We plunged into the woods as the rain pounded down. The day she was in flames behind me, and nothing but darkness ahead. Alright. I am gonna go ahead and get me something to drink. I'll be right back. Hey, Nate. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for the compliment. I honestly try. I may not always have my best reading, but it, at the very least, it might be passable, even if I make certain mistakes with what I'm reading. But I try. I try to do as good as I can. But now, if you'll excuse me, I got a tea. I got some tea to drink. me. There we go. Alright. I have returned. Good night, mate. Alright, Nate. Thank you for stopping by. Hope you have a good rest of your night and a good sleep. But we can now go back to reading. Actually, the tea that I got is actually some pretty warm tea, actually. So who knows, maybe it's actually pretty good. Maybe it might keep me awake a little bit better. But yes, I do drink a lot of tea. I fucking love it. I think that's the British ancestry part of me. Like, and I mean like actual British ancestry. Because the last name that you got that I put on my channel, the last name there actually has some British history tied to it. Not too much, but enough for my. I'd say enough. Anyway, Chapter 11. We visit the Garden Gnome Emporium. In a way, it's nice to know that there are. Sorry. In a way, it's nice to know there are Greek gods out there, because you have somebody to blame when things go wrong. For instance, when you're walking away from a bus that's just been attacked by monster hags and blown up by lightnings, and it's raining on top of everything else, the most people might think that's just really bad luck. When you're a half blood, you understand that some divine force really is trying to mess up your day. So there we are. So there we were, Annabeth and Grover and I, walking through the woods along the New Jersey riverbank, the glow of New York City making the night sky yellow behind us, and the smell of the Hudson reeking in our noses. Grover was shivering and praying, his big goat eyes turned slit-pupiled and full of terror. The three kindly ones, all three at once. I was pretty much in shock myself. The explosion of bus windows still rang in my ears, but Annabeth kept pulling us along, saying, "Come on! The further we get away, the better." All our money was back there, I reminded her. Our food and clothes, everything. Well, maybe if you hadn't decided to jump into the fight, what did you want me to do? Let you get killed? You didn't need to protect me, Percy. I would have been fine. Sliced like a sound Sliced like my sandwich bread, Grover put in. But fine. Shut up, goat boy, said Annabeth. Grover prayed mournfully. Tin cans. A perfectly good bag of tin cans. We slushed across mushy ground, through nasty twisted trees that smelled like sour laundry. After a few minutes, Annabeth fell into line next to me. Look, her voice faltered. I appreciate you coming back for us, okay? That was really brave. We're a team, right? She was silent for a few more steps. It's just that if you died, aside from the fact that it would really suck for you, it would mean the quest was over. This may be my only chance to see the real world. The thunderstorm had finally let up. The city glow faded behind us, leaving us in almost total darkness. I couldn't see anything of Annabeth except a glint of her blonde hair. You haven't left Camp Half-Blood since you were 7? I asked her. No, only in short field trips. My dad, the history professor. Yeah, it didn't work out for me living at home. I mean, Camp Half-Blood is my home. She was rushing her words out now, as if she were afraid somebody might try to stop her. At camp, you train and train. And that's all cool and everything, but the real world is where the monsters are. That's where you learn whether you're any good or not. If I didn't know any better, I could have sworn I heard doubt. Could have sworn I heard doubt in her voice. You're pretty good with that knife, I said. You think so? Anybody who can piggyback ride a Fury is okay by me. I couldn't really see, but I thought she might have giggled. She might have smiled. You know, she said, maybe I should tell you. Something funny back on the bus. Whatever she wanted to say was interrupted by a shrill doot doot doot, like the sound of an owl being tortured. Hey, my reed pipes still work, Grover cried. If I could just remember a fine Pat song, we could get out of these woods. He pumped out a few notes, but the tune still sounded suspiciously like Hilary Duff. Instead of finding a path, I immediately slammed into a tree and got a nice sized knot on my head. Added to the list of superpowers I did not have, infrared vision. After tripping and cursing and generally feeling miserable for another mile or so, I started seeing light up ahead, the colors of a neon sign. I could smell food, fried, greasy, excellent food. I realized I hadn't eaten anything unhealthy since I had arrived at camp at Half Blood Hill, where we lived on grapes, bread, cheese, and extra lean cut nymph prepared barbecue. This boy needed a double cheeseburger. We kept walking until I saw a deserted 2-lane road through the trees. On the other side was a closed down gas station, a touted billboard for a 1990s movie, and one open business, which was the source of the neon light and the good smell. It wasn't a fast food restaurant like I'd hoped. It was one of those weird roadside curio shops that sell lawn flamingos and wooden Indians and and cement grizzly bears and stuff like that. The main building was a long, low warehouse surrounded by acres of statuary. The neon sign above the gate was impossible for me to read because if there's anything worse for my dyslexia than regular English, it's red cursive neon English. To me, it looked like Auntie Miss Gedoren Gorman Meproim. What the heck does that say? I asked. I don't know, Annabeth said. She loved reading so much I'd forgotten she was dyslexic too. Grover translated. Auntie M's Garden Gnome Emporium. Flanking the entrance, as advertised, were two cement garden gnomes, ugly bearded little runts, smiling and waving as if they were about to get their picture taken. I crossed the street, following the smell of the hamburgers. Hey, Grover warned. The lights are on inside, Annabeth said. Maybe it's open. Snack bar, I said wistfully. Snack bar, she agreed. Are you two crazy? Grover said. This place is weird. We ignored him. The front lawn of was a forest of statues, cement animals, cement children, even a cement satyr playing the pipes, which gave Grover the creeps. Blah. Blah. Okay, that's terrible, but we're moving on. Blah. He bleated. Looks like my Uncle Ferdinand. We stopped at the warehouse door. Don't knock, Grover pleaded. I smell monsters. Your nose is clogged up from the Furies, Annabeth told him. All I smell is burgers. Aren't you hungry? Meat, he said scornfully. I'm a vegetarian. You eat cheese enchiladas in aluminum cans, I reminded him. Those are vegetables. Come on, let's leave. These statues are looking at me. Then the door creaked open, and standing in front of us was a tall Middle Eastern woman. At least I assumed she was Middle Eastern, because she wore a long black gown that covered everything but her hands, and her head was completely veiled. Her eyes glinted behind a curtain of black gauze, but that was about all I could make out. Her coffee-colored hands looked old, but well manicured and elegant, so I imagined she was a grandmother who had once been a beautiful lady. Her accent sounded vaguely Middle Eastern, too. She said, "Children, it is too late to be out all alone. Where are your parents?" "They're, um," Annabeth started to say. "We're orphans," I said. "Orphans!" "The orphans?" the woman said. The word sounded alien in her mouth. "But, my dears, surely not." "We got separated from our caravan," I said. "Our co- our circus caravan. The ringmaster told us to meet him at the gas station if we got lost, but he may have forgotten, or maybe he meant a different gas station. Anyway, we're lost." "Is that food I smell?" "Oh, my dears," the woman said, "you must come in, poor children. I am Auntie M. Go straight through to the back of the warehouse, please. There is a dining area." We then turned one inside. Annabeth muttered to me, "Circus caravan? Always have a strategy, right?" "Your head is full of kelp." The warehouse was filled with more statues, people in all different poses, wearing all different outfits and with different expressions on their faces. I was thinking you'd have to have a pretty huge garden to fit even one of these statues, because they were all life size. But mostly I was thinking about food. Go ahead, call me an idiot for walking into a strange lady's shop like that, just because I was hungry, but I do impulsive stuff sometimes. Plus, you've never smelled Auntie M's burgers. The aroma was like laughing gas in the dentist chair. It made everything else go away. I barely noticed Grover's nervous whimpers, or the way the statue's eyes seemed to follow me, or the fact that Auntie M had locked the door behind us. All I cared about was finding the dining area, and sure enough, there it was, the back of the warehouse, a fast food counter with a grill, a soda fountain, a pretzel heater, and a nacho cheese dispenser. Everything you could want, plus a few steel picnic tables out front. "Please sit down," said Auntie M said. "Awesome," I said. Um, Grover said reluctantly. "We don't have any money, ma'am." Before I could jab him in the ribs, Auntie M said, "No, no, children, no money. This is a special case, yes? It is my treat for such nice orphans." "Thank you, ma'am," Annabeth said. Auntie M stiffened as if Annabeth had done something wrong, but then the old woman released out just as quickly, so I figured it must have been my imagination. "Quite all right, Annabeth," she said. You have such beautiful gray eyes, child." Only later did I wonder how she knew Annabeth's name, even though we had never introduced ourselves. Our hostess disappeared behind the snack counter and started cooking. Before we knew it, she'd brought us plastic trays heaped with double cheeseburgers, vanilla shakes, and extra large servings of French fries. Pretty much extra large servings of French fries. That's pretty much super size. I was halfway through my burger before I remembered to breathe. Annabeth slurped her shake. Grover picked up the fries and eyed the tray's waxed paper liners if he may go for that, but he still looked too nervous to eat. "What's that hissing noise?" he asked. I listened but didn't hear anything. Annabeth shook her head. "Hissing?" Auntie M asked. "Perhaps you hear the deep fryer oil. You have keen ears, Grover." "I take vitamins for my ears." That's admirable," she said. "But please relax." Auntie M ate nothing. She had taken off her headdress, even to cook, and now she sat forward and interlaced her fingers and watched us eat. It was a little unsettling, having someone stare at me while couldn't see her face, but I was feeling satisfied after the burger, and a little sleepy, and I figured the least I could do was try to make her small talk with our hostess. So, you sell gnomes, I said, trying to sound interested. Oh yes, Auntie M said, and animals, and people, anything for the garden. Custom orders, statuary is very popular, you know. Is a lot of business on this road popular? Not so much, no. Since the highways was since the highways was built, most cars they do not go this way now. I'm a sure it should be customer I get. My neck tingled as if somebody else was looking at me. I turned, but it was just a statue of a young girl holding an Easter basket. The detail was incredible, much better than you see in most garden statues. But something was wrong with her face. It looked as if she was startled, or even terrified. Ah, Auntie Em said sadly, you'll notice some of my creations do not turn out well. They are marred. They do not sell. In fact, the face is the hardest to get right. Always the face. You make those statues yourself? I asked. Oh, yes. Once upon a time I had two sisters to help me in the show business, but they have passed on and Auntie Em is alone. I have only one statues. This is why I make them, you see. They are my own conspiracy. A sadness in her voice sounded so deep and so real that I couldn't help feeling sorry for her. Annabeth had stopped eating. She sat forward and said, Two sisters? It's a terrible story, Auntie Beth said. Auntie M said, Not for you children, really. There's, I mean, see, Annabeth, as Bedworms is jealous of Samaria. Long ago, when I was young, I had a shiny, that this is, um, mm, mm, hmm. Weird how I just lost my place in the middle of that. Hello, Dank Elf. How you doing tonight? Great content. Thank you. Thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. Hmm. So I'm actually gonna go back to where I was at that I can remember last. Doing well. That's good to hear. That's probably why, because I didn't read the whole. I don't think I remember reading this whole paragraph. So, 175, reading the paragraph here. My neck tingled as if somebody else was looking at me. I turned, but it was just a statue of a young girl holding an Easter basket. The detail was incredible, much better than you see in most garden statues. But something was wrong with her face. It looked as if she were startled or even terrified. Ah, Auntie Em said sadly, you'll notice some of my creations do not turn out well. They are marred. They do not sell. The face is the hardest to get right. Always the face. You made these statues yourself? I asked. Oh, yes. Once upon a time I had two sisters to help me in the business, but they have passed on and Auntie Em is alone. I have only my statues. This is why I make them. You see, they are my company. The sadness in her voice sounded so deep and so real that I couldn't help feeling sorry for her. Annabeth had stopped eating. She sat forward and said, "Two sisters? It's a terrible story, Auntie. I'm pretty sure I probably read some of that a few moments ago, but it never hurts to reread it just to, just to be safe. Not one for children, you see, really. You see, Annabeth, a bad woman was jealous of me long ago when I was young. I had a, a boyfriend, you know, and this woman was determined to break us apart. She caused a terrible accident. My sisters stayed by me. They shared my bad fortune as long as they could, but eventually they passed on. They faded away. I alone have survived, but at a price. Such a price. I wasn't sure what she meant, but I felt bad for her. My eyelids kept getting heavier, my full stomach making me sleepy. Poor old lady. Who would want to hurt somebody so nice? Percy? Annabeth was shaking me out to get my attention. Maybe we should go. I mean, the ringmaster will be waiting. She sounded tense. I wasn't sure why. Grover was eating the waxed paper off the tray now, but if Auntie M found that strange, she didn't say anything. Such beautiful gray eyes, Auntie M told Annabeth again. Why, yes, it has been a long time since I've seen gray eyes like those. She reached out as if to stroke Annabeth's cheek, but Annabeth stood up abruptly. We really should go. Yes! Grover swallowed his waxed paper and stood up. The ringmaster's waiting! Right! I didn't want to leave. I felt full and content. Auntie M was so nice I wanted to stay with her for a while. Please, dears, Auntie M pleaded. I so rarely get to be with children. Before you go, won't you at least sit for a pose? A pose? Annabeth asked wearily. A photograph. I will use it to model a new statue set. Children are so popular, you see. Everyone loves children. Annabeth shifted her weight from foot to foot. I don't think we can, ma'am. Come on, Percy. Sure we can, I said. I was irritated with Annabeth for being so brave, so bossy, so rude to an old lady who just fed us for free. It's just a photo, Annabeth. What's the harm? Yes, Annabeth, the woman purred. No harm. I could tell Annabeth didn't like it, but she allowed LTM to lead us back out the front door and into the garden of statues. LTM directed us to a park bench next to the stone satyr. Now then, she said, I'll just position you correctly. The young girl in the middle, I think, and the two young gentlemen on the either side. Not much light for a pose, I remarked. Oh, enough, Auntie M said. Enough for us to get to see each other, yes? Where's your camera? Grover asked. Auntie M stepped back as if to admire the shot. Now the face isn't the most is the most difficult. Can you smile for me, please, everyone? A large smile. Garrett glanced at the cemetery satyr next to him and mumbled, That sure does look like Uncle Ferdinand. Groovy, uh, Auntie M chastised. Maybe this, maybe this way we'll still have some cameras in their hands. Penny, Annabeth said. Wait, Penny? What? You didn't even say Penny. You said Percy. Percy, Annabeth said. Some instinct warned me to listen to Annabeth, and I was fighting the sleepiness feeling of the comfortable lull that came from the foot in the old man's voice. I would, mm, hold on a second. Doing well, that's good to hear. Alright, getting back to this story. Summons. "It will just be a moment," Auntie Em said. "You know I can't see you very well with this cursed veil." "Percy, something's wrong," Annabeth insisted. "Wrong?" Auntie Em said, reaching up to undo the wrap around her head. "Not at all, dear. I have such noble company tonight. What could be wrong?" "That is Uncle Ferdinand!" Grover gasped. "Look away from her!" Annabeth shouted. She whipped, she whipped her Yankees cap onto her head and vanished. Her invisible hands pushed Grover and me both off the bench. I was on the ground, looking at Auntie M's sand-down feet. I could hear Grover scrambling off in one direction, Annabeth in another, but I was too dazed to move. These days I heard a strange rasping sound above me. My eyes rose to Auntie M's hands, and she turned gnarled and warty, with sharp bronze talons for fingernails. I almost looked higher, but somewhere off to my left Annabeth screamed, "No, don't!" More rasping, the sound of tiny snakes, right above me from about where Auntie M's head used to be. "Run!" Grover bleated. I heard him race across the gravel, yelling, "Maya!" to kickstart his flying sneakers. It couldn't be moved. I stared at, I stared, yeah, I stared at Auntie M's gnarled claws and tried to fight the groggy twice the opponent's head, and put in. Hold on a second. "Such a pity to destroy a handsome young face," she told me soothingly. "Stay with me, Percy. All you have to do is look up." I fought the urge to obey. Instead, I looked to one side and the other. Uh, uh yeah, grazing ball. I could see Auntie M's dark reflection in the orange glass. Her headdress was gone, revealing her face as a shimmering pale circle. Her hair was moving, writhing like serpents. Auntie M. Auntie M. How could I have been so stupid? Think, I told myself. How did Medusa die in the myth? But I couldn't think. Something told me that in the myth, Medusa had been with sleeping when she was under attack by my namesake Perseus. She wasn't anywhere near asleep now. If she was, she could have taken those Tylenol pills right now and shake open my fate and so if everybody okay, we got to do that. Let's see here. The gray-eyed ones did this to me, Percy, Medusa said. No, she didn't sound anything like a monster. Her voice invited me to look up, an equivalent with poor Grandmaster Annabeth's mother, since Athos turned from uh, King King Kong Bundy. Let's assume there's somebody with him. Uh, think, I told myself. How did Medusa die in the myth? But I couldn't think. Something told me that in the myth, Medusa had been asleep when she was attacked by my namesake Perseus. She even shared an entire, an entire cut down log. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna. Mm, man, I'm tempted to read through chapter 13 and then call it a night there and then continue. Well, it said 13. I thought it was. Is it 13? Let's see. Yeah, it's chapter 12. So what I'll be doing is because I'm starting to feel a little tired. I will read this chapter once, and then tomorrow night we'll finish this section off of it. Alright, alright, alright. See here. I'll read the fourth paragraph, but the second biggest paragraph at this point. The Greyad once did this to me, Percy, Medusa said, and she didn't sound anything like a monster. Her voice invited me to look up to sympathize with with a poor soul grandmother. Annabeth's mother. Alright. Let's see here. Hmm. Don't listen to her, Annabeth's voice shouted, somewhere in the statuary. Run, Percy! Silence! Medusa snarled. The voice, her voice modulated back to a configuring port. You see why I must delete this picture, Percy? She was in my college's dungeon, and uh, mm, he did. Anyway, thought I heard something, but whatever. Either way, silence! Medusa snarled. Then her voice modulated back to a confronting purr. You see why I must destroy this girl, Percy. She is my enemy's daughter. I shall crush her statue to shards. But you, dear Lucy, have your own life to suffer. Mm. Alright, let's see here. Alright. No, I muttered, trying to make my legs move. Oh yeah, really wants to fight. Do you really want to help the bots? Let's see. Do you understand what the help with the gods? Let's see. The thorn. I can't really like. I don't like it when they put the orange cover. Like they put orange on the PlayStation. Yeah. All right. Oh, we literally got like what, three more page to turn. Three more page turns. Anyway, do you want really want to help the gods? Medusa asked. Do you understand what awaits you on this foolish quest, Percy? What will happen if you reach the underworld? Do, do not be a part of the Olympians, my friend. You would be better off as a statue. Second, less place, less pain, less pain. Very much less pain, yeah. Grover, holding a tree branch the size of a baseball bat, his eyes were shut wide and his head twitched from side to side. But he liked what he was saying. Huh? Alright. Percy! Behind me I heard a buzzing sound like a 200-pound hummingbird and a nosediver. Grover yelled, Duck! I turned and there he was in the night sky flying in it from 12 o'clock with his wingspan, uh, Portuguese. Let's see here. Shit. Well, you know what? I'm actually gonna read this paragraph that read this page that I'm on because it ends in a paragraph. I'll go ahead and probably end it there because because I'm starting to get tired. Yeah, but I gotta admit though, I'm getting pretty close because it's like, yeah, yeah, I'm getting kind of close, but probably feeling a little too close for comfort with that. So I'll go ahead and finish reading what was on this one page that I'm on, and then we'll just move from there. I turned, and there he was in the night sky, flying in from 12 o'clock with his winged shoes fluttering. Grover holding a tree branch the size of a baseball bat. His eyes were shut tight. His head twitched from side to side. He was navigated by ears and nose alone. Duck! He yelled again. I'll get her! The finale jolted me into an action. Knowing Grover, I was sure he'd miss Medusa and nail me, knowing I to record one side. Dusk! At first I thought, thought it was the sound of belonging the ghost by the mock Medusa red rode with rage. Let's see here. Let's see here. Uh, Okay. Okay, I found where I'm at now. Continuing still at the very start of page 181, in case anybody's wants to follow along with me on this. That finally joined me in action. Knowing Grover, I was sure he'd miss Medusa and nail me. I dove to one side. Thwack! At first I figured it was the sound of Grover hitting a tree. The Medusa roared with rage. You miserable satyr, she snarled. I'll add you to my collection. That was for Uncle Ferdinand, Grover yelled back. I scrambled away and bit in the statuary while Grover swooped down from another pass. Quack! Ah! Medusa yelled, her snake hair hissing and spitting. Right next, right next to me. Wait, no, right, that wouldn't even. What? Right next to me, Annabeth's voice said, Percy! I jumped so high my feet nearly cleared a garden gnome. Jeez, don't do that! Annabeth took off her Yankees cap and became visible. You have to cut her head off. What? Are you crazy? Let's get out of here. Medusa's a menace. She's evil. I'd kill her myself, but... Annabeth swallowed as if she were about to make a difficult admission. But you've got the better weapon. Besides, I'd never get close to her. She'd slice me to bits because of my mother. You've got a chance. What? I can't. Look, do you want her turning more innocent people into statues? She pointed to a pair of statue lovers, a man and a woman with their arms around each other, turned to stone by the monster. Annabeth grabbed a green gazing ball from a nearby pedestal. A polished shield would be better. She studied the sphere critically. The convexity will cause some distortion. The reflection size should be off by a factor of. Would you speak English? I am! She tossed me the glass ball. Just look at her in the glass. Never at her directly. Hey guys! Grover yelled somewhat above us. I think she's unconscious. Okay, maybe not, Grover corrected. He went in for another pass with the tree branch. Hurry, Annabeth told me. Grover's got a great nose, but he'll eventually crash. I took out my pin and uncapped it. The bronze black of riptide elongated in my hand. I followed the hissing and spitting sounds of Medusa's hair. I kept it, I kept my uh, I kept my eyes locked on this gazing ball so I could only glimpse Medusa's reflection, not the real thing. Then in the green tinted glass, I saw her. Grover was coming. Grover was coming home for another turn. Grover was coming in for another turn at bat, but this time he flew a little too low. Medusa grabbed the stick and pulled him off course. He tumbled through the air and crashed into the arms of Stone Grizzly Bear with a painful "Urgh!" Medusa was about to lunge at him when I yelled, "Hey!" I advanced on her, which wasn't easy, holding a sword and a glass ball. If she charged, I'd have to pay a hard time defending myself. But she lets me approach every 20 feet, 10 feet. I could see the reflections of her rear face now. Such a really, cer- surely it wasn't that ugly. The rules surrounding the ring are going. The brain cells of the gaming ball must be disorienting, making it look worse. Uh, I hesitated, fascinated. Fascinated by the fans, and I saw a reflection in the glass. The eyes that seemed to run bandroids straight down the green-tipped, tiny man. My arms so weak. From the cremation murder, Grizzly doll. Let's see. Grover moaned. Percy don't limit to here. Let's see here. So hard to stay focused. Let's see here. Okay. Started on 183 with the start. From the cement grizzly, Grover moaned. Percy, don't listen to her. Medusa tackled. Too late. She lunged at me with her talons. I slashed up her with my sword, hearing a sickening blop, splop, slop. Then a hiss like wind rushing out of the cavern. The sound of a mother disintegrating. Something fell to the ground next to my foot. Took all the willpower not to look. I could feel warm, cozy soaking into my house. Little diamond beds tugging at my shoulders. Oh, yuck, Grover said. His eyes were still tightly dulled, and I guess he could never have the indulgent and streaming Marge raw. Yeah. Okay. Drink this real quick. Annabeth came up next to me, her eyes fixed on the sky. She was holding Medusa's black veil. She said, "Don't move." Very, very carefully, without looking down, she knelt and draped the monster's head in black cloth, then picked it up. It was still dripping green juice. "Are you okay?" she asked me, her voice trembling. "Yeah," I decided, though I felt like throwing up my double cheeseburger. Why did why didn't the head evaporate? "Once you sever it, it becomes a spoil of war," she said. "Same as your minotaur horn. But don't unwrap the head, it can still petrify you." Grover moaned as he climbed down from the grizzly statue. He had a big welt on his forehead. His green rasta come from one of his little goat horns, and his fake feet had been knocked off by his hooves. The magic sneakers were flying aimlessly around his head. The Red Baron said, "Good job, man." He managed a bashful grin. That smile was not fun, though. While the hitting her with a stick part, that was fun, but crashing together is better, not fun. Finally, I said, "So you have my leader to thank for this monster?" Annabeth flashed me an irritated look. "Your dad, actually. Don't you remember? Medusa was Medusa was Poseidon's girlfriend. They decided to meet in my mother's temple. That's why Athena turned her into a monster. Medusa and her two sisters who had helped her get into the temple, they became the three Gorgons. That's why Medusa wanted to slice me up, but she wanted to preserve you in a at a nice stance. She still seems set on your dad website. You probably remembered her list of him. My fact is boring. Or my face was boring. Oh, so now it's my fault we met Medusa. Annabelle straightened in a bad imitation of the world's scientist. Um, Alright. See here. It's okay. Alright. Going back to this one paragraph, second paragraph on page 185. Annabeth flashed me an irritated look. Your dad, actually. Don't you remember? Medusa was Poseidon's girlfriend. They decided to meet in my mother's temple. That's why Athena turned her into a monster. Medusa and her two sisters who had helped her get into the temple. They became the three Gorgons. That's why Medusa wanted to slice them up, but she wanted to. Yeah, okay. Yeah, alright. Okay. Let's see here. Another flash in about flash made irritated look. It's your dad, actually. Don't you remember? Medusa was Poseidon's girlfriend. They decided to meet at my uncle's temple. That was why Athena turned her into a monster. Medusa and her two sisters who had helped get into the sample, they became the forest Gorgons. That's why Medusa is to be alone, to be a minor. She Jurassic World Evolution, it looks like I might guess. That's based on the first one, I think. Really. That's why. Let's see. Trying to find my place again. I'm so tired. I gotta. Yeah, da, 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 da. Medusa and her two sisters, who had helped her get into the temple, they became the three Gorgons. That's why Medusa wanted to align me up, but she wanted to preserve you as a nicer statue. She's still sweet on your dad. You probably reminded her of him. My face was burning. Also, now it's my fault we met Medusa. Annabeth straightened in a bad imitation of my voice. She said, It's not just a photo, Annabeth. What's the harm?" "Forget it," I said. "You're impossible. You're insufferable." She, she said, "It's just about enough. Annabeth, what's the harm?" Tabor's, what is, can't really quite say it, but I'm pretty sure it's a pretty expensive thing I can't use. So just moving on. Grover interrupted. "You two are giving me a migraine and saying that doesn't even get migraines. And are we going to do this with the head?" I stared at the thing, quickly, quick on little see, see through. Let's see here. I stared at the thing. One little snake was handed out with the hole in the phrase. The words printed on the side of the bag saying, "We are approaching your business." Every art angry not just with Annabeth or her mom, but with all those gods for this whole quest for for bitter miners, but with all the goals of that whole quest for getting a blown out $150,000 and in two major fights the very first day out from camp, numb this rate. Uh, let's see here. Let's see here. Actually, I'm gonna go back up to the middle of the 185 here, so that way I know for a fact where we're at here. Yep, I'm just gonna stay for the record. I know I'm going back a number of times on so many different parts, but when you're feeling tired, you don't, and but yet you still don't want to miss anything. Sometimes you just want to go back just because. But thankfully, the chapter's almost done. I'll be ending the stream after this. And then reading chapter 12. No, wait, chapter 13 through 15. Yeah. So we're almost done with the chapter, that's for sure. But we'll go back to the middle of the page just so that way we're very sure that I've read this bit. Annabeth straightened. In a bad imitation of my voice, she said, "It's just a photo, Annabeth. What's the harm?" "Forget it," I said. "You're impossible. You're insufferable. You're—" "Hey!" Grover interrupted. "You two are giving me a migraine, and Santiers don't even get migraines. What are we going to do with this head?" I stared at the thing. One little snake was hidden out of the hole in the plastic. The words printed on the back of the bag said, "We appreciate your business." I was angry not just with Annabeth or her mom, but with all the gods for this whole quest, for getting us blown off the road, and in the two major fights the very first day out from camp. At this rate, we'd never make it to LA alive, much less before the summer solstice. What had Medusa said? "Do not be a part of the Olympians, my dear. You would be better off as a statue." I got up. "I'll be back." "Percy," Annabeth called after me. "What are you—" I searched the back of the warehouse until I found Medusa's office. Her account book showed her 6 most recent sales, all shipments to the underworld to decorate Hades and Persephone's garden. According to one freight bill, the underworld's billing address was DOA Recording Studios, West Hollywood, California. I folded up the bill and stuffed it in my pocket. In the cash register I found $20, a few golden drachmas, and some packing slips for Hermes Overnight Express, each with a little leather bag attached for coins. I rummaged around the rest of the office until I found the right size box. I went back to the picnic table, packed up Medusa's head, and filled out a delivery slip. The gods, Mount Olympus, 600th floor, Empire State Building, New York, New York. With best wishes, Percy Jackson. "They're not going to like that," Grover warned. "They'll think you're impertinent." I poured some golden drachmas in the pouch. As soon as I closed it, there was a sound like a cash register. The package floated off the table and disappeared with a pop. "I am impertinent," I said. I looked at Annabeth, daring her to criticize. She didn't. She seemed resigned to the fact that I had a major talent for tickling off the gods. "Come on," she muttered. "We need a new plan." So, yeah. No, wait, I was on chapter 11, but whatever. So, 12 through 14, I'll be doing that tomorrow night. So, with that being said, I know that I was all over the place with reading this book, but, it happens. It happens, especially when I'm doing this late at night and I'm feeling tired, but I still want to do something like this. So, hopefully that didn't detract from your possible having a good time with this book. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys did enjoy, even with the old me just going all over the place with the book this time. But still, I hope you enjoyed. And until tomorrow night, this is Forrest Walpole signing off.